Right, so this exhaust pipe shouldn't be as difficult as the others. It's got a couple of bends in it, but at least we're not going to end up with like 15 different pieces to put it all in. So as I said, the first thing we need is a piece of the standard 1 3/8 that goes into there. I could buy some 1 3/8 stainless steel tubing, but it's not necessarily. It's only going to be that little bit that's in there, and then the rest will be stainless. So what I'm going to use is the end of the original pipe. Okay, so that's going to go in there. So what I'm going to do is mark that, and then we're going to use a short one of these. See how far I can get it in there and mark that, and then we'll cut a piece off and probably have to just work on it to get it so that this is going to go tight against there. I could, I suppose, take the head off and open that out to 1.5, but it's extra. Well, we come back to the thing I keep mentioning, diminishing returns. All that work, and I don't think it's going to make much difference. So let me cut a piece of this pipe off. Now I've put a piece in, so that now goes in there. Nice fit. So now we can start to look at where we're going to put this one. As I said, there's not many pieces to go on this. We just need to bring that to start with, so it's going to clear the distributor. Alright, nearly slipped up. I forgot about the little thin clamp. So I've made another piece which is slightly longer, so the clamp will go on and that will go in there nice and tight like that. So let me put a couple of little tacks to hold that in there. It doesn't need to be any more than that, and then I'll clean these two pieces up and we'll line them up. Now then, I've just put a couple of little tacks in that, which is all it needs to hold that on, and that goes in there and that goes up nicely. So what I've also done is just taped a piece of it, actually I like, it's nice and light, 1.5 inch tube to that, so we can see where our initial straight bit is going to go. Cool, how about that? So we're going to have to be like that, as I say, and then put a little bit of a curl in it. Okay, you just go and tack that to that, and then we'll check to see if it's right. If it is, we'll weld it up. Now I'll put a couple of tacks on there to hold that the way we want it. I've turned this round. Now remember, we're putting electronic ignition on the other side, so this is totally redundant. Now I was going to leave it on purely for effect, because this year bike should have one of those, but as you can see, it's a bit of a pain for the exhaust. Now when they stopped using this, they didn't sort of say, okay, we're going to stop using this, we don't need to do the cases. They probably had cases done, whatever the reason. Good old BSA. When you first got these, they'd have a plug in. The cases still had the drill in and everything to fit it in. So there's a little plug went in the top. So I've been able to turn this round so that the actual lumpy part isn't in the way, because as I say, we don't have to worry about this for ignition. But I'm beginning to wonder whether I shouldn't just take that out and put a plug in it. It's this top part that catches, and I am going to bend it down a bit. It's got to go down a bit there, then it's got to go in a bit to miss this oil line, then it's going to come out again. So it's got, if we're going to do this in one piece, it's going to need 3 bends in it, all in slightly different planes. Let me play around a little bit more. Now, although it's true to say I'll never get used to bending tubes unless I practice, stainless steel tube is too expensive to practice with. Got to put a little bend in that. Funny enough, that's just like on the yellow peril there. But then I've got to do this little bend in and straighten up. But I was just looking, and if I put 2 45s together, they'll about do what I want. The way around, sorry. See, they'll take it in and then bring it back out. Those two are going to be parallel, and they're going to move it over, oh, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch, which is about as much as I want. In fact, I could even put another 3/4 on that to bring it back out. So I think that's what we'll do. We'll get a straight piece, we'll put 1 bend in it to bring it down, and then just after the distributor we'll do our little kink. In fact, see, that's what we're planning to do. A little kink like that, right there. And that's just about spot on. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go and tack these two, because I can always break the tacks and still use these. So let me clean these up so they look right. Then I'll lay them down flat so that the 2 pipes will be parallel. I'll put a little tack on them. So there's our piece just tacked together, so that will go there. Just on that, it'll just go around there like that. This piece is going to be angled down slightly. And that will point that through there about perfectly. So, that back in there, so that I can measure from here to see where I want this bend to be. Right. That in there firmly. We want the centre of the bend to be right there. It's going to go up, curve over, and then catch those double ones, and then we'll have another piece. Maybe I have to put a little bend in it again just to get it to come out of here. Now, of course, the original one, hang on, I've printed out a photograph so that I don't have to handle my book with dirty hands. As you can see, it comes down right here. There's actually a nice little star emblem that goes in there. There's the 2 little holes to mount it with. So you can see it comes down, goes under the tank, comes out the side, on the outside I should say, not comes out the side, it's on the outside there, and then it kicks up there. So we're going to go in, we're going to have to come out and do something clever. Well, what I've got to do is find a photograph of the next sort of model where they took that inside the frame and see what type of silencer they put on it then. Suppose it would make the job easier and possibly more accurate if I actually measured the angle. So that's where the bend is. Try to follow that bottom line. course I'm catching right on this bloody hose clip there. Okay, try again. I think that'll about do it. 8.4, let's say 9 degrees because it springs back a little bit. Go and try that. I'll put this tube in to the mark we had on the other tube. Got this set to 0. Put some lubricant on it. So let's see about taking this round to. Now the spring's gone about 1 degree. Let's knock that round to 0 again. It's gone round to 5. That spring's gone out of that is on 9, so let's go and look at that. See how this bend goes. Now, as I mentioned, you know, you always lose a little bit because you can't get it right to the end. If we put that there, that looks to be about right. It's squashed this a little bit. I must admit I still haven't made that thing to stop the anti-kickback, but let me cut that off. And what were we talking about for this? Just there, just at the back of the distributor. So we're going to cut that off there. We're going to cut that off. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll cut it off here. Give ourselves a little bit extra. See how this looks and see if I can get it without getting my hands in the way. Let me mark this. Oh, can't remember which way was front and which way was back now. Oh well, that goes on there like thus. Oh. Goes in there like thus. Just a little fiddle to get that right, and then that's going to go in there like that, and that takes it. Oh, that's really nice. Yes, that'll work well. So let me get this where I want it, mark it and tack it. Right, this actually is the next day and I can't remember where I left off yesterday. But anyway, I've welded that up and just giving it a bit of a polish so we can see what it's going to look like. That's there. I've also welded up this piece. I've given it a bit of a polish so we can look at that later. So what we want now is to mark this and then I'll tack it. What I'm going to do is tack this and then put that on and tack that. Now, as you know, as I saw recommended once, when I do the exhaust in sections, I don't tack all the bits together and then weld them because the stainless does tend to move about a lot. As we saw with the Monster, I mean, it was unbelievable how much it moved. So what I don't want to do is find that there's a tight, you know, it's even a tiny bit of movement in each weld, so that by the time you've done them all, you find this end's moved half an inch and it doesn't fit. You do it this way, where you weld each one up as you go along, then basically the only really rigid weld is that very last one. So you can make your last piece to suit exactly. But here I don't think that will be a problem. So blab it on a bit there. Let's put this as we need it. difficult to keep hold of this. It's like... Right, that's clear of everything. Let me just put the top on a pen there. Yep, that looks good. Right, so I've got it marked, I'll go and tack it. So there's that piece tacked on. Now then, we've got to decide how this wants to go. Shall we put it down a bit like that? I think that's about it. Anyway, we'll tack it as before and then check it. I've got the little bends tacked on, so let's see. A little bit of something under there to act as a little spacing piece. See, that's not touching anything. Okay, so what we need now is a straight piece, and then I think probably a 45 there, or maybe a slightly shorter 45. We'll see. So let's have a look. Get a ruler. Let's have a look. That in there. There. I want to put that on there. It's going to need to be 3.5 inches long. Right, let me cut a piece, and then that's going to be straight on that, so I don't even need to mark it. I'll cut a piece, tack it, and then we'll see what it looks like. There's that piece on. That in. There like that. It's missing this pipe. It's got plenty of room to put the other pipe on. That just clearer there. And that goes on there. Now I think what I'll do is put that to kick up a little bit. So I might have to do something else to that. Didn't need to be, no, that's good. That pointing up. I might have to leave this last piece actually till I decide on the silencer I'm going to use. So we'll go off this now and we'll go and look at that side panel, but let me just show you this as it looks now. I think that looks pretty good. I've just jammed a little bit of something under there to make sure I'm clear of everything. Actually what I can do is I can make the bracket up to go from there. Cut a piece of stainless steel, drill it, put our bends in, tack it, and then actually that will be good because that will hold it for the far end, because at the moment of course it's still wobbly. But if I have that on, that'll be right where it wants to be and we can take it from there. So let me go and find a piece of, I don't know, 1/8 stainless steel and cut a piece for there and put a couple of bends in it. But as I say, I'm pleased with that. I think I'll make one of those for my trials bike because I've just got a black pipe. And of course the cases and everything are basically the same size, so I think that's a really nice curve. Fits in nicely, and as I say, The original one comes right down here and out here. So this is higher and further in. It's nicer altogether, I think. Okay, let me go and find some plate. Right, well, I didn't have any 1-inch flat stainless steel, so I had to order some. It's now arrived, so we're going to make this piece. But while I was waiting, I ground out the welds and polished this up a little bit. I'm not sure about the very end bit. We'll have to look at that. But other than that, I'm pretty pleased with that. I think it looks much nicer than that big round thing that came round like that. But what's also arrived is, look at this, new old stock. Can you see that? Yes, you can. The genuine article, if I can get this plastic wrapper off it. Hang on. The genuine article competition footrest, kickstart. So that goes on like that, see? And the footrest comes up here. So it kicks around it. So that's good because we can put that on, then we can work out where our footrests are from. Also, handlebars, but I'm not quite sure whether these are the right ones. I'll show you them. I am in pain. I've just been stung by a bloody wasp. And there was another one in the workshop as well. But I sprayed him with some yellow aerosol, so he is no more. God, that hurts. It's only the other week that I was stung when I was out in the garden. Alright, what was I saying? Oh, poor me. Handlebars. Alright, I put a pair of trials bars on just in case those stupid ones. So these are the ones that came with the part number. They're the right amount of lift from the photograph, but from the photograph I can't measure to scale the length of the handles and the pullback. But they really look like it. The pullbacks may be a little bit more than the standard trials ones, but I don't see that I can straighten them out any. We'll see, and if I don't like them, we'll have to use them on something else. But anyway, they came, so let's get on and make this bracket. Now then, as usual here, we've started with a bit of cardboard. So there's my 3/8 hole, so that's going to go to there. We've got to get this exactly where we want it first. So that's going to weld onto there. So from that, we have, of course, made up a piece of stainless. It's 1/8, good and strong enough. So what I'm going to do now is, we have our bend there. I'll mark where the bend is on here. Put the first bend in. Actually, we shouldn't be too bad. We just have to put a little bit on the end there. So let me do that. Now I've done the main bend in it. I've also put a little bend here and just the slightest bit of a curve on. So that will go on there. And we'll put that. That on there, that's pressed in tight. So now all we need to do is tack this, and then I'll take it off and weld it up. I'll tighten that up though, because as I mentioned before, you just finger tighten that, you fasten it, it all looks great, and then when you tighten that with a spanner, it pulls it in a bit more, and suddenly you're not where you should be. So let me get a 9/16 spanner, or two. That's that tightened up, and we're touching very nicely. We're in tight there. Touching, we're clear everywhere we should be clear. I'll show you. So let me wheel the welder over and I'll tack it and then we'll weld it up. Alright, I've got it all welded up. ground it, polished it a bit there, and it's welded on the inside as well. So I've had to give it a little tweak. Good old stainless steel, it moved about a bit, but not much. That's in there tight. Still tight there. It's not touching anything. Not bad. Alright, now we're going to have to come and look at this back end and look at the silencer. In fact, we'll look at the silencer first. So here's the picture of the genuine C15T that we're working from. As you can see, the silencer is quite short and fat. Now, I've done some measurements that I'll show you in a second, but what we've got is this swinging arm, I think it was an inch longer. So it's actually moved the rear suspension unit back slightly. So we're going to make this slightly shorter to be able to fit it in. So you notice where the rear number plate is. This bike isn't exactly square on. So some of the measurements are slightly out. So what I did was I enlarged it with my photography software. This tube, we know, the exhaust pipe is 1 7/8. So I scaled that. This is 3-inch diameter and 8 inches long. So I got thinking how we could make this. And what I decided to do was I got some, hang on, I'll have to pull you out for this, I forgot. There you go. I got some 3-inch diameter stainless steel tube. Now I need to be able to make those caps on the end. Well, with a little bit more searching, I found you can buy caps, stainless steel ready made. So that will get welded on there, and then that and that are basically identical. So we have another cap for the other end, and as I say, I'm going to make this about 7 inches long to get it to fit in. So then what we'll do is, in the end of this, we'll put an 1.5 inch hole, one in each end. We'll slide an 1.5 inch pipe all the way through, and we'll make it like the Royal Enfield one, I'm thinking. Then put a slightly bit larger diameter tube there to make the sleeve for the exhaust pipe to go in. So first thing for us to do is to actually look, because here you see, hang on, let's move these things out of the way. The other big difference, you remember, is this runs on the outside of the frame. We're going on the inside of the frame, so instead of that being a nice straight line for the exhaust, it's going to have to curl outwards. So we're going to have to do a little bit of clever stuff here to get this where we want it. So let's go back and look at the bike. Right, have you written your comments yet? That's not 1 7/8, it's 1 3/8. So let's go and look at the bike. Now this is where things start to get slightly harder, as I mentioned. Instead of us just having the pipe here on the outside, so the silencer just goes straight on, it's inside. So we're going to have to do some clever stuff to get it outside. But that, of course, is pointing us out, and we don't want, you know, if we were knocking together one of our trials bikes, it doesn't matter if that sticks out a bit. But we're not. We want this in there, like thusly. We also want it high enough so it doesn't catch the swinging arm when it moves up. How long is that going to be? Hang on, let me switch you off. Now then. This is going to be bigger. I'll have to, as I mentioned, I'll have to stick a suspension unit on there so we just know how big that's going to be. See, 7 inches I think will be about right. There's 7 inches. because the silencer can go in. Silencer's 3 inch, pipe's 1.5 inches, so the silencer can stick in 3/4 of an inch and the sort of tailpipe will still be out here. So let's put that in there on the inside. So yeah, I think 7 inches, look, will be just nice. But we still got to get from that end cup there into this. And of course we've got to be able to get to the sleeve to fasten the clamp. So that's going to go about like that. Got to dig out a suspension unit and put it on now. Of course I don't have a 12-inch one. I'll go and have a look, see what I can find that's the nearest. We can always be slightly different and jack this up a little bit. But the important thing is to know how big it is here. Alright, so let me go and look at suspension units and then we'll see what we can see. Well, we're going to take a little break from the silencer because Spot decided to give me a hand and now we've got to make a little trip to the vets. So, see you shortly. Right, we're back. He's up at the house convalescing so we can get on. So, what have I done? As I said before, I could not find a 12-inch unit. So what I did was I had a couple that I'd taken the springs off. So I've set one to 12 inches and I put a hose clip on so that it can't close up. And I had some spare covers. So roughly that's the size that we're going to be, and that's about where it's going to be. Because the body length tends to be similar. The extra length goes into the spring and the rod. Now what I've also done is I have made a little mock-up of the silencer. Piece of cardboard tube. It's a little bit more than 3 inches, so I had to split it and bring it in. Because the 8-inch length was from the very end to the very end, not from there to there. So that's going to fit in like that. Maybe at a little bit of an angle, I don't know. Now that should be, see, that'll go in there. That should be alright. I think we've got plenty of, hang on. We've got enough movement for the swinging arm, I think. If I put that in about like that. That's 2.5 inches there. 2 3/4, something like that. That should be plenty. Now then, our big problem, again, as I say, is getting out of there into here. Now it's not so bad at this end, but there obviously we can't come straight out, which is the way we want it, without putting that a little bit of a twist. So let me see about mocking up a piece of 1.5 inch there, and then we can work on that. Now I've added a tailpipe to this, nearest damage in the centre, 1.5 inch. I think I'm going to be able to make this a little bit longer actually, and I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to do the silencing part, whether I'm going to put some baffles in or a through pipe, you know, as I say, like the Enfield was, a through pipe that's sealed in the middle with holes in, so that it comes in, goes through the holes into the chamber, back through the holes and out. I don't know yet. But that, see, we're clear of that. We've got a good bit there. And we don't have too much of a difficulty there, I don't think. We just need to put a very slight angle on, and then maybe a straight bit. So a slight angle here, like that, and then a straight bit. Almost, I might even be able to make it out of that. Cut that back there, so it, just to say it kicks it out. And then a straight piece, and that can be our clamp on right there. Doesn't matter, you know, this doesn't have to have just the short piece here. It can have as long a piece as I want to go in there. That part we don't have to exactly duplicate. So let me play around with an angled piece for there, or I could even try putting a bend in, couldn't I? Put a little bend in, piece that end. That would just be about the right amount to stick into the tube bender actually before the bend starts. So I might be able to just do a little bit of a bend there that will go into that and keep that. I'm not going to be able to get it exactly like that, the way that the standard bike is, because as I say, on the standard bike the pipe comes in there. So that's easy. But we aren't doing it that way. So I'm going to have to kink it a little bit just to fit it in. Don't think it'll make it look that strange. I have to have a little cut out in the mud guard. Alright, let me do some more looking. Right, well, this is taking a fair bit of head scratching here. As David Cowton said, a nice easy job, and then I start making it difficult. Okay, I've taken the oil tank off so that I could look down on this. And I really couldn't see a way of doing it, so I went out and I have an old, whoops, that's a Victor Special one, which, as I say, you see them on a lot of BSA type trials bikes before people started buying the nice alloy ones that are getting made. But the thing about this, you'll notice, look, apart from it not being a tube but actually tapering, see how that the inlet goes in at this side and the outlet the same. They're not centered, so they give themselves a bit of a, you know, offset there. So I thought about that, because I want to be in here. We've got to, and I thought about putting this one on there. See that? Offset like that, and then that does point it at the pipe. I can even move this one over here to let that tuck in slightly. Then obviously I couldn't do the straight through type tube for baffles. I'd have to think of something else for inside. So I'm going to cut a little bit off this to get what I think is the right angle on there, and then we'll see how it points at the exhaust pipe. You won't believe how long I've been fiddling on to make this, but I've made what I think is the right turn, and while I was on I put that on. So that's going to go on there. Come on, yeah, that's going to go on there like that. We'll be putting a clip on. Then we pull you back. That should go on there like that. We're going to miss the tyre. We're not touching the frame. I can make this a shade long. Well, I can make it a good bit longer, another inch. And I think we'll be fine for the swinging arm. Alright, so that's going to do it for today. So I'll see you tomorrow. Right, now, I've lost track of where I was up to when I knocked off. I'm running around getting ready for my trial this weekend. And we're still going to have it, but reduced format, no barbecue and stuff like that. Okay, I've welded a little bit extra on here. And these marks are where the swinging arm would come up to, with, I think it's 3 and 3.5 inches of suspension unit travel. So it probably isn't that much. The C15 basic was listed with 2.5 inches, so that just gives me plenty of space, so I know where I'm aiming at. So what I'm going to do now is just decide where that's going to go, because I can because this is angled, I can swivel it a little bit to get it up at a point further out, whatever, and then when I've put the hole in this, that will push on a little bit. That's fine. and we can set it up. I think it's going to be like that, maybe a little bit like, where's the tape measure, not the tape measure, the ruler, there it is. Again, three-handed job. Right, so if I put that in there, we'll put it to the highest one to be on the safe side. That's where the swinging arm's going to be when it comes up. Oh, we've got loads of space, and I can move that down a little bit, I think. Put that on like that, so I can make the body a fraction longer, and that's going to be great. So what I'm going to do now is I find the pen, mark on this end cap where that's going to be, and then we're going to cut a 1.5 inch hole in that. We'll put it on, get it sorted to exactly where we want it, make a couple of marks, then we'll tack it and try it. Now I've got this marked up, and of course I'm going to use a hole saw, so I need to know the centre. So I just thought I'd show you how I found the centre, because this being curved, it wasn't that easy to do, but this is the quickest method I always use. I've got a piece of tube same size and the centre finder thing, and what I've done is I've marked it on each side and then came around about 90 degrees and marked it each side again. So I've got 4 reference points. Then I put that on there and mark the 4 reference points, and then because this is curved, I use just a straight edge piece of carb to go across, mark it, go across the other ones, mark it, and there's the centre. So let me put this in the vise and hold this as best as I can to drill that hole. I've got the hole cut in there for the pipe to go in, and I've taped it back onto our tube. So it goes in that way, doesn't it? Put this back on here. And then, where's our marks? There's our marks. That should be fine, so because that is outside of that, and it's not touching there, but it is touching there. So that's poking out too far that way. So it wants to be 10. Come on now. It's a good fit. There we go. It wants to be about like thus. So what I'm going to do is tack it just on one side so it's still like that, then we'll bring it back and put it exactly as we want it. And then we can do the last of the welding. So it's tacked now, so that's how it's going to be. That's the highest it could possibly go. So we've got lots of clearance at the back here and there, although you can't see from there. This is actually outside the plane of that. So that's fine. So let me weld this up here, and then we're going to cut this piece for here. Weld that on there. Cut a hole in this, which will be easier because I'm going to cut it in the centre. That looks fine. As I was saying, I'll cut that in the centre. we'll weld a straight piece on. All look very nice. Now that's welded on completely, so that's going to go on there like that, and I reckon we can make this about 3/4 of an inch longer. Okay, so right now it is 4 3/8. So we'll make it 5 inches longer. That's another 5/8. So let me cut a piece of 3 inch, 5 inches long. There's the body welded on and given a quick polish. So that's going to go on there like that. I think that's pretty good. So what I'm going to do here, actually I was looking at the silencer or that Victor Special one I had, and the way that worked was the pipe came in, about half the chamber was just completely empty, and then the other half had a tube which was only very slightly, the outside diameter was only very slightly less than the inner diameter of this, and then that was heavily drilled and that came out of the tailpipe. So we're going to make something very similar. We're going to use 1.5 inch tube. That's going to go in there. We've got, but instead of sort of using that section to allow the gases to expand, because this section is almost full of the outlet pipe as on the Victor Special one, because this has got so much space around it, we're actually going to make this come right back to here. So the tube will go right through to here, the end will be blanked off, and then that will be filled with holes. Now I kept the plan for the silencer the same, but I've had a change in material. Now this stainless steel is really hard to drill and I have a lot of holes to drill. So what I've done is I've made this end of it out of a piece of 1.5 inch, actually it's chrome moly that I had left over from doing Jensen's frame. So that's there, the end is sealed off. So we'll weld that onto there. That'll go in there like thus, and of course be nice and level, and that's going to be it. So there's the picture, and here is basically the finished article. Those caps weren't exactly a perfect match for the tube, so I've maybe got to do a little bit of work there, and I start to make a bracket, but I don't think that looks too bad. It certainly looks pretty similar to, let me move you around actually so you're not at such an angle. I think it's got the same look. Could have been fractionally longer, but I'm happy with that. So I'll go and look for some stainless steel. I'm not sure if I have a big enough piece. I know I have some 1 inch wide 1/8, but I might need it to be a bit bigger to come up to meet a bracket on there. Anyway, we might get to that, we might not. So I'm knocking off for the day. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I haven't got any stainless steel suitable for that, but also I'll put the oil tank back on to make sure I'm still nicely clear here. But there's not a lot of space in there for where the tyre is going to be, so I'm going to leave making the brackets anyway until I've got the wheels, just in case I have to move it out a little bit. I can always put a tiny pie cut in here and just swing it out. I've got, I don't know, 1/4 inch here that I can come out. See, I can force it a little bit, but I don't want to do that. I want it to fit properly, so I can bring that out a little bit more. I think I'm going to be alright, but we want to know for certain. So, or I can put a little pie cut there. Anyway, we'll leave making the bracket, but there's the exhaust done, all bar the bracket. So next week, and as you already know because you're watching this is going to come out Saturday night, because as I mentioned, this weekend, this Sunday is going to be my trial. And funnily enough, next Sunday you'll get it on Saturday night as well, because the next day is the last trial of vintage trial of the season here. So what we're going to do next week is we're going to do these footrests. We know where our kickstart's going to go, so we're going to do them, and we'll probably do the prop stand, and that'll get that done, and maybe that little bit with the back frame loop. And then I think we'll probably take the engine out because, did I tell you this? I tried to get in touch with Devon Rim, phoned them. I use Skype when I phone the UK because it's cheap. For some reason I got a recorded message saying they wouldn't accept the phone call. So then I went to their website and sent a message through the send us a message thing, and they've never answered, so I thought, sod you. I called Central Wheel, and they were fine, but it's a few weeks to get it from them. So almost made me think maybe I should have got alloy rims, because I could have got them within a couple of weeks from Buchanan's, but no, I want chrome rims. Alright, so that's it for this week. You take care and enjoy yourselves.